Discover the amazing transformation, how a heartwarming maid changed a billionaire's life forever. The rain drummed against the windows of the Chicago luxury hotel, each drop a reminder of the challenges Mary faced every day. In her late 30s, Mary juggled her demanding job as a maid while raising her two spirited children. She worked tirelessly, pouring her heart into every task, knowing each clean room brought her closer to her dream of a better life for her kids. Each month was a struggle to make rent, and the weight of it rested heavily on her shoulders. But in her close-knit neighborhood, Mary found a sanctuary. Neighbors shared meals, laughter, and shoulders to lean on, reminding her that even in tough times, community offered a glimmer of hope. On that rain-soaked evening, she was finishing her shift when she collided with him, Daniel, the elusive billionaire known for avoiding the limelight. Once vibrant, tragedy had shut Daniel away, leaving him in a room overflowing with wealth yet void of warmth. The sudden encounter left them both alarmed. For their lives had never really intersected until that moment. Mary, caught off guard, felt a chill and flushed cheeks, as if her modest presence had burst through the walls of his gilded cage. Daniel, on the other hand, found himself startled by the flicker of something he hadn't felt in years: connection. As days turned into weeks, their paths crossed more frequently. In the break room, their conversations began awkwardly. Mary would share snippets of her day, her laughter mingling with the sound of the ticking clock. She painted pictures of family dinners and shared playdates, weaving in the values that shaped her resilience. Daniel listened with a mix of curiosity and something deeper. How could such a simple life be so rich in meaning? Meanwhile, Mary saw beneath his polished exterior, recognizing the layers of sadness and isolation. One rainy afternoon, a quiet moment cracked the surface. Mary's son had fallen ill, and desperate for help, she reached out to her tight-knit neighbors. They quickly rallied, bringing soup and love, and as Mary recounted the story over rice and beans in the break room, Daniel was captivated. It dawned on him the warmth of community she described was missing in his own life. With no warning, a shadow from Mary's past slipped back into view, threatening to upend everything they stumbled upon. The shadow cast doubts, both about Mary's worth and Daniel's ability to look past class divides. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Mary found herself at the heart of a whirlwind, her neighborhood buzzing with curiosity and judgment. As she gained recognition for her spirit, some rallied behind her while others whispered naysaying truths. Daniel, sitting in his grand boardroom, felt the pressure of his world clashing with hers. Their friendship, fiery and fragile, stood on a precipice. Would he rise to stand by her side amidst the gathering storms, or retreat into the safety of his wealth? As Mary prepared to face the upcoming challenges, a realization washed over her. She was more than just a maid, she embodied hope and resilience. But as the unearthing of her past loomed closer, the question lingered: could they redefine what true wealth meant together, or would judgment tear them apart? The rain continued to pour outside, echoing the uncertainty of their intertwined fates. The next morning, the clouds had finally cleared, leaving a crisp, bright blue sky. Mary stepped out of her small apartment, a sense of determination swelling in her chest. The birds were chirping, and the world around her felt alive with promise. Today, she would confront the whispers. Today, she would stand tall. At the hotel, she pushed open the heavy doors, greeted by the familiar scent of polished marble and fresh linen. But it was more than that. The warmth of her newfound connection with Daniel enveloped her like a soft blanket. Just a quick smile from him during the morning rush made her heart race. It reminded her that, despite their circumstances, moments of genuine connection were possible. As she went about her tasks, she noticed her coworkers shooting glances her way, their eyes filled with curiosity. Whispers floated around the break room, growing louder as the story of her encounter with Daniel spread. Some were supportive, applauding her for catching the eye of a billionaire, while others scoffed, implying that she didn't belong in his world. In the midst of it all, Daniel's brief visits to the hotel became her brief reprieves. One day, he leaned against the doorway of the break room, a faint smile on his lips. "Have lunch with me today?" he asked, his voice low and inviting. Mary hesitated, glancing back at the judgmental stares from her colleagues. "I can't," she replied, a knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. "People will talk." "Let them talk," he said, his gaze intense. "I want to know you beyond these walls." His words sparked something inside her. Why should she worry about what they said? She was proud of her journey, the struggles and triumphs that shaped her. After a moment of silence, Mary nodded. "Okay. Let us go." They found a quiet cafe a few blocks away, where sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a warm glow over their table. Over sandwiches, the conversation flowed freely. Mary shared stories of her childhood, of lessons learned through hard times. Daniel opened up too. He confessed to feeling suffocated by expectations and the burden of wealth. "I want to find joy in the little things," he admitted, his brow furrowing slightly. "But I don't know how anymore." Mary felt a wave of empathy wash over her. She leaned forward, her voice steady. "You just have to start living like you mean it. Embrace the chaos, cherish the laughter. That's where true wealth lies." As he absorbed her words, something softened in his demeanor, as if she was chipping away the frost that had encased his heart. The connection buzzed between them, electric and undeniable. But as they laughed, Mary's heart suddenly sank when she received a text from her past. A message from Miguel, her estranged husband, flashed on her screen. "I'm back in town. We need to talk." Her face paled, feeling the rush of old fears clawing at her insides. She glanced at Daniel, whose smile had faded as he misread the shift in her energy. "Is everything all right?" he asked, concern etching his features. I have to go," she stammered, her stomach churning with dread. Mary stood, leaving the unfinished meal behind, her mind racing. As she left the cafe, the weight of her past loomed larger than ever. Could she really face Miguel, and what would it mean for her budding friendship with Daniel? The warmth they had built suddenly felt ice-cold, filled with uncertainty. As Mary walked away, a deep sense of conflict stirred within her. Would she let her past dictate her future? Or would she rise like the sun that had just graced the city, ready to shine brightly? What lay ahead seemed daunting, yet so filled with potential. It was time for Mary to decide, was she ready to embrace a new chapter, or would the shadows of her past pull her back into darkness? As she stepped into the streets, a flicker of hope ignited within her. What choice would she make next? Mary's heart raced as she stepped out of the cafe, the lively chatter around her fading into a hollow echo. The sunlight felt sharp against her skin, clearing her mind but amplifying the turmoil inside. Miguel was back. That simple message unraveled the steadiness she had begun to weave in her life. She paused on the sidewalk, the bustling city surrounding her, oblivious to her inner commotion. The laughter of children playing nearby and the honking of cars became distant noises buried by her thoughts. Memories flooded her mind, clawing at the edges of her resolve. Could she really face him after all this time? After everything that had happened? Each step felt heavy as she recalled their life together, the smiles that turned to arguments, love that faded into resentment. But amid the chaos, there had been love. A part of her wondered if that love still existed, tangled within the bitterness of their shared past. What if he wanted to reconcile? What if he wanted to fight for their family? And here she was growing closer to Daniel, exploring something she barely understood. A flutter of excitement mixed with dread swept through her. As she turned toward the park to calm her racing thoughts, the idea of confronting Miguel felt like standing before a climbing wall she'd avoided for far too long. It loomed tall and intimidating, the footholds shaky and uncertain. Could she truly pull herself to the top? A familiar voice broke through her reverie. "Mary." It was Daniel, striding toward her with that same warm smile she'd found comfort in during their brief time together. "Hey," she replied, the moment catching her off guard. "You vanished," he said, concern now etched in his features. "Is everything okay?" How could she explain? How could she tell him that her ex-husband's return was like a shadow looming over their newfound connection? The thought felt too raw and fragile to share just yet. "Just family stuff," she mumbled, hoping to deflect. "Family stuff can be heavy," he replied, his gaze steady. "Do you want to talk about it?" She hesitated, the warmth of his presence tempting her to open up. Instead, she shook her head gently. "Not now. I'm just trying to figure things out." "Okay, but don't forget, I'm here," he said softly. "You don't have to go through this alone." His support felt like a lifeline pulled into the churning waves of her thoughts. She met his eyes and realized that, despite the looming chaos, there was a chance, a glimmer of hope in her life. "Thank you," she whispered, letting a faint smile break through her concerns. They started walking, the tension of the moment slowly dissolving into a comforting camaraderie. But in the back of her mind, Miguel's message sat heavy and unyielding. Do she let the past consume her, or take the chance at happiness Daniel offered? At that moment, as they strolled through the park, a warmth began to spread through her heart. Could she truly let the past be just that? The uncertainty of what lay ahead felt electric. But before she could ponder further, her phone buzzed again, pulling her from the moment. She gulped, the screen lighting up with a news alert about Miguel, a meeting set for tonight. The thought settled in her chest like a stone, heavy and unyielding. "I have to go," she said abruptly, sensing Daniel's questioning gaze on her. "Are you sure?" he asked, his face a mixture of concern and confusion. Mary nodded, her heart pounding once more. She couldn't ignore it any longer. The past was calling, and she needed to answer. As she turned away, a wave of uncertainty crashed over her, mixed with an undeniable hope. This was the moment she needed to confront her fears. Tonight would change everything. Would she step into the unknown or allow the fear to shatter her renewed spirit? What awaited her at that meeting could alter the course of her life forever. Would it pull her back into darkness or push her forward into the light? As Mary made her way through the park, the trees swayed gently in the wind, but inside, she felt anything but serene. Each step felt heavier, weighed down by the looming meeting with Miguel. Her thoughts raced. Was she ready for this? Daniel's voice lingered in her mind, "You don't have to go through this alone." Those words felt like a lifeline, but right now, she felt utterly isolated. She couldn't shake the image of Miguel, the chaos he brought, and the complicated history that was threatening to resurface. The meeting was set for the small conference room at Miguel's office, a building she'd thought she would never step foot in again. With every stride toward that familiar, imposing structure, her heart pounded with a blend of fear and anticipation. What if Miguel had changed? What if he hadn't? She didn't have the answers, and that uncertainty gnawed at her. As she approached the glass doors, she paused. Her breath hitched. Memories flooded through her happy days and painful arguments, love and betrayal. They raced past her as if playing out on a screen, vibrant yet shadowed. She could almost hear the echoes of laughter blending into heated discussions, a reminder of everything that had once been. Mary pushed through the doors and stepped into the lobby. The cool air felt expansive, liberating even, yet her thoughts twisted into knots. She took a moment, collecting herself in front of the receptionist. "I'm here to see Miguel," she said, her voice steadier than she felt inside. "Right this way," the receptionist replied with a polite smile, guiding her to the elevator. Each ding as they ascended felt like the countdown to a roller coaster drop. As the doors slid open, Mary stepped out cautiously into the familiar hallway. Standing before Miguel's office felt surreal. She hesitated. This was the moment she needed to confront her past. But how? The door loomed in front of her, solid and unyielding as if it had the weight of their entire history pressed against it. With a deep breath, she finally turned the handle and stepped inside. Miguel was already seated, looking out the window that framed the busy city skyline. The sunlight hit him just right, illuminating his features, but somehow everything felt different. Gone were the hasty exchanges and concealed grudges. His shoulders seemed to carry a new weight, a weariness she hadn't noticed before. Perhaps he had changed after all. "Mary," he said, turning to her, eyes wide with a mix of surprise and something else she couldn't place. "I didn't think you'd come." "I had to," she replied, searching for courage within herself. "We need to talk." He gestured for her to sit, and she chose the chair opposite him, her heart a cadence of nervous beats. Silence enveloped them, thick and palpable. They both seemed to measure their next words, memories dancing in the space between them. "About us," he started, his voice softer than she remembered. Mary took a breath. "We can't keep avoiding this." But before she could continue, the vulnerability in Miguel's expression caught her off guard. His eyes, once fierce, now appeared sad, almost remorseful. It sparked a flicker of empathy within her, a reminder that they had once shared everything: dreams, hopes, the laughter of their children. "Let me explain," he said. "I made mistakes, and I'm willing to own up to them if you give me a chance." The words hung in the air, heavy and loaded, each one weighted with the potential of a new beginning or the perils of regresar al pasado. Could they really rebuild something that felt irreparably broken? Mary felt the familiar pull of longing, but doubt crept in. Was she ready to face this uncertainty and risk everything she started building with Daniel? As the shadows of their past loomed, a sense of urgency filled her. This was the moment where everything she had been working toward could either slip away or transform into something new, but at what cost? Just as she opened her mouth to respond, the door swung open. A flash of surprise crossed Miguel's face, and Mary's heart dropped. "Daniel?" she breathed, caught completely off guard. What had she done? Would this confrontation be the tipping point for everything she had begun to cherish, or the catalyst that would shatter it all? Mary's breath caught in her throat as Daniel stood in the doorway, a mixture of confusion and concern etched across his face. The surprise broke through the tension in the room like a sudden storm. For a fleeting moment, she felt the ground shift beneath her, and her chest tightened with uncertainty. "You're here?" Daniel's voice was soft and edged with disbelief. He glanced at Miguel, whose expression shifted from surprise to something more wary. Mary's pulse quickened. She had practiced how she would handle this meeting, but she hadn't prepared for Daniel to walk in. How could she explain? There was so much unspoken truth lingering in the air, and it felt impossibly heavy. "Daniel," she finally managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't expect to see you here." His gaze was unwavering as he stepped into the office. "I came to check on you. You were gone longer than I thought." Miguel stood, breaking the silence. "I didn't know Mary would be here either, Daniel. We were just talking." Daniel's eyes flicked back to Miguel, measuring him with a gaze that held no hospitality. "Talking about what?" There was something sharp in his tone, a protective instinct flaring up inside him. "About our past," Mary interjected quickly, hoping to diffuse the brewing tension. "Trying to understand what happened between us." For a moment, Daniel looked between them, the air thick with unspoken feelings and strained histories. "Mary, I need you to be honest with me. What's really going on here?" His voice wavered slightly, revealing the cracks in his composed exterior. Mary felt a swell of emotion. She had come here to confront her past with Miguel, but now, standing in front of Daniel, she was faced with the reality of her present and the uncertainty of her future. "I am being honest," she said, her heart aching. "I came here to talk about closure about the things we never resolved. But isn't that just another way of avoiding what's right in front of you?" Daniel replied, a hint of frustration creeping into his voice. "What do you want, Mary? What do you really want?" She felt trapped, an emotional tug-of-war pulling her in two different directions. Her chest tightened as her mind raced. Did she want to rekindle something with Miguel, or was the wounded past simply calling out to her, mixing dangerously with the healing she had found with Daniel? Miguel remained silent, watching the exchange with conflicted emotions. He seemed to be wrestling with the weight of their shared history, echoing the turmoil swirling around them. "Let's be real," Daniel said, his voice steadying. "You don't need to open old wounds unless you're ready to embrace what's next. Am I the one you truly want?" Mary's heart pounded against her ribcage. She looked at Daniel, his earnest face pleading with her to see the truth. But the ghost of what once was wrapped around her tightly, blurring the lines she desperately needed to see. "We can't ignore this, can we?" Miguel finally spoke, interrupting the moment, his voice thick with emotion. "We have unfinished business, Mary. If you care about moving forward, you need to confront your past. Don't you see that?" The word struck her with the force of a wave. She could feel a decision churning beneath the surface, and it was rising, begging for air. But the thought terrified her. Did she want to dive deep into this well of memories, or should she pull herself back and protect the life she was starting to build with Daniel? Mary stood in the thickening tension, glancing from one man to the other, sensing their anticipation. It felt as if she was teetering on the edge of an emotional cliff, and the urge to leap into certainty was almost overwhelming. "Well, Mary?" Daniel pressed gently, his voice breaking through her thoughts. "What is it that you really want?" As his question echoed in the room, the future felt painfully clear. But at what cost? Just then, Miguel leaned forward, a glint of resolve in his eyes. "Whatever you choose, I'll respect it. But know this: some choices change your life forever." The weight of that statement hung in the air as Mary held herself together, feeling the tremors of change ripple through her. She had to choose, and every option lay heavy with risk. And in that moment, she realized her heart wasn't the only thing on the line. What would it mean for her future, and could she face the echoes of her past to truly understand what was at stake? Mary's pulse raced as Daniel's eyes searched hers for answers. She felt the weight of his gaze pressing down on her, an undeniable warmth that contrasted sharply with the cold memories of her past with Miguel. Yet, in that moment, she knew she had to find her voice. "Daniel," she started, hesitating as her thoughts tangled up in a web of emotions. Every word felt like an admission, a step toward a truth she was not yet ready to face. "I don't know what I want. I thought I did. But everything is so complicated." Her candidness startled Daniel. He glanced at Miguel, then back at her, processing her confusion. "Complicated doesn't mean you should throw away what feels right," he said firmly, his voice steady but soft at the edges. "If you're unsure, I want to help you figure it out. You don't have to do this alone." Miguel leaned against the desk, arms crossed, looking more weary than confrontational. "Mary, think about the last time you were truly happy. Was it here? With Daniel?" His question was pointed, cutting through the tension like a knife. Mary's gaze flickered to Miguel's face. Memories flooded her mind, the laughter they shared, the reckless joy of youth. But between those memories lay scars, deep and unsettling. "Daniel has been a solid presence in my life," she said, feeling the weight of her words. They layered with uncertainty, pushing against the hope she had found. "And rehashing old romances, it just feels so risky." "Every choice you make is risky," Miguel replied, a challenge in his tone. "What matters is whether you want to keep avoiding the truth. That can lead to a life of regrets." There was an intensity in Miguel's eyes, one that drew Mary in despite the swirling doubts in her mind. His words pierced through her defenses, but she wasn't ready to let him back in. She craved the safety Daniel offered, an anchor in the storm of her memories. She shook her head, trying to separate her tangled feelings. "I need." Silence fell heavily around them as she trailed off, the enormity of her decision hanging in the air. "Mary," Daniel drew nearer, his voice dropping low and earnest. "What if we take a step back, slow it down? You deserve time to figure things out. You don't have to rush this." His understanding pierced through the fog of confusion, while Miguel's presence reminded her of the life she had fought to escape. Suddenly, she felt the weight of her past and her future pinning her down, squeezing the air from her lungs. Who did she want? Who did she need? A soft sob escaped her lips, the frustration and fear breaking through. "I wish things were simple," she whispered, her voice quaking. "Well, they aren't," Miguel said gently. "But you have to find clarity within the chaos, even if it hurts." Mary wiped her tears, each drop revealing the mix of pain and determination she'd held in check for too long. "I'm scared, you know. Scared of making the wrong choice." "Then let us face those fears together," Daniel said, reaching out to her, his hand brushing against hers, a spark igniting. In that moment, uncertainty morphed into possibility, as Mary realized she didn't want to turn away from either man. She had to confront her own heart, to face what her choices meant. A part of her whispered that the decision would shape everything ahead: her happiness, her future, her heart. With a deep breath, she looked up at Daniel. "Maybe taking time is the answer, but I need to start untangling my feelings first." Miguel watched them, a mixture of hope and resignation wafting around him. Just as things seemed to settle, though, the phone on the desk buzzed sharply, shattering the atmosphere. Mary's heart leaped. Caught off guard, she reached for it, glancing at the screen. It was a message from an unknown number. The message simply read, "I know what you did. We need to talk." A chill shot down her spine, and her heart sank. The past had come knocking once more. Daniel and Miguel leaned in to see the screen, confusion clouding their expressions. Mary's breath hitched again. As she prepared to reply, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread pooling in her gut. What did this message mean for her future? She took a step back, suddenly aware of the walls closing in around her. In the wake of that chilling text, she found herself once again at a crossroads, with the weight of her choices pressing heavier than ever. Would she be ready to confront the ghosts lurking just out of sight? Mary's mind raced as she stared at the phone. The screen lit up her face like an alarm bell, the sharp message echoing a truth she had tried to forget. Memories she had buried rushed back, threatening to drown her in a torrent of guilt and fear. "What did it say?" Miguel asked, his voice low, but urgent. She hesitated, caught between what was familiar and what was unknown, then met his gaze. "It's from someone I don't recognize. They said, 'I know what you did. We need to talk.'" Daniel's brow furrowed, concern etched on his face. "What does that mean, Mary? Is it about your past?" Her heart raced as she considered the implications. She had thought she could start fresh, that old wounds could heal in the quiet embrace of a new beginning. But it felt like her past was ripping the stitches open, spilling into the present. "Yes," she admitted slowly, voice shaking, "it is. Someone knows something I tried to keep hidden. I don't know how they found out." Miguel moved closer, his presence a mixture of protectiveness and worry. "Who could it be? We can figure this out together." Together the word resounded in her mind, the warmth it promised contrasting sharply with the dread creeping up her spine. Could she lean on either of them? Did she even deserve their support when her secrets threatened to pull them into her chaos? Daniel reached for her hand, intertwining his fingers with hers. "You're not alone in this. Whatever it is, we'll face it." His touch was steady, grounding her in the moment, while Miguel's worried expression played across her mind. Was he really there for her, or was this just a shadow of the past? As the weight of his gaze pressed on her, she felt a conflicting urge between the comfort of Daniel and the laser-focused passion from Miguel. In the midst of turmoil, she had to make a choice. Taking a deep breath, Mary released Daniel's hand, feeling the distance between her heart and her past narrowing. "I can't let this go unanswered. I have to reply." "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Miguel interjected, the concern growing in his voice. "What if it's someone I need to confront? Someone who won't let go until I do? I have to put this to rest, or it'll always be in the back of my mind." "Maybe don't go alone," Daniel suggested softly. "Let us do this as a team." Mary felt a flicker of hope amidst her fear. She looked at Daniel, his calm demeanor offering reassurance. Then her gaze turned to Miguel, who bore a hollow expression that mirrored her turmoil. As she weighed her options, another thought nagged at her. What if reaching out just opened old wounds further? She glanced back at her phone, biting her lip. This unexpected message was like a tempest, ready to rupture the fragile peace she had started to build. "I need to know what they want, but what if it brings more pain? Then we'll deal with it together," Daniel offered again, his voice unwavering. Determined yet frightened, she finally began typing a response, her heart racing with each word. Just before she hit send, panic surged through her. What if this opened a Pandora's box she couldn't close? "You're sure about this?" Miguel asked, watching her intently, the protective nature stirring once more. "I have to be," she replied, swallowing hard as her finger hovered over the screen. In that split second, a clarity washed over her. The moment stretched on, filled with tension and the uneasy weight of the past creeping back in. But she was done running. She needed to confront her demons no matter what shape they took. With a deep breath, she pressed send. The message zipped away, sealing her fate. Her phone buzzed almost instantly, and a rush of anxiety gripped her heart. She looked at the screen, reading the new incoming message and feeling chills race down her spine. "Meet me tonight. The old place." Mary's breath hitched again, awareness dawning on her. The old place where everything had unraveled. The thought of facing whatever awaited her sent a shiver through her. Would this night finally bring the closure she so desperately needed, or was it just another descent into turmoil? With Daniel and Miguel's eyes on her, she felt every emotion flood back, wrestling within. Would they stand by her when the past came crashing in once again? Mary glanced at Daniel and Miguel, their faces a mirror of her own conflicted emotions. She could feel the tension in the air, heavy like a storm cloud ready to burst. The thought of meeting the sender of the message with her past in tow was nearly paralyzing. "It's just a message, right?" Daniel broke the silence, trying to keep her grounded. "You can choose not to go. But what if this is my only chance to confront whatever this is?" Her voice trembled as she spoke. "What if I walk away from this and never get another chance? What if they just keep haunting me from the shadows?" Miguel, eyes dark with concern, leaned forward slightly. "Then we go with you. We'll be there. You won't be facing them alone." The reassurance from both men was a salve on her racing heart. For once, she didn't feel quite as trapped in her own head. She felt the warmth of support surrounding her. "You really think it's safe?" Daniel nodded, his expression open and sincere. "We won't let anything happen to you. You mean too much to us." Mary took a deep breath, feeling courage rise within her. "Okay. I'll go. But only if you both come." It felt like a shaky agreement, but one she was willing to lean into. She needed them now more than ever. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow across the town as they made their way to the old place. It loomed ahead, a ghost of her past intertwined with memories she would rather forget. The car was silent, the weight of impending confrontation saturating the air. In her mind, she replayed the moments that had led her to this point, the mistakes, the regrets, and the countless sleepless nights spent worrying about someone discovering her truth. Each thought hit like a wave, and she struggled to keep her footing. As they parked, she hesitated, her fingers gripping the door handle tightly. What if they try to hurt me? What if this backfires? We've got your back, Miguel assured her. We'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. His voice was low, a comforting promise. Mary stepped out of the car, fortifying her resolve with each stride toward the entrance. The second her foot stepped inside the old place, a wave of memories washed over her. The worn floorboards creaked beneath her weight like a nostalgic sigh, and the faint smell of dust and disrepair felt familiar yet foreign. Stay close, Daniel whispered, glancing around the dimly lit room. They made their way through the familiar corridors, shadows beckoning with every flicker of a light overhead. Her heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just about confronting someone who knew her secret, it was about reclaiming her life. The moments lost to fear and despair were at her feet, waiting for her to take that next step. Then, there it was, a dim outline at the far end of the room, someone standing just beyond her view. Mary's breath caught in her throat as the figure turned slightly, revealing a face she hadn't seen in years. Thought you'd never show, the stranger said, their voice cutting through the silence like a knife. Inside, Mary felt a rush of emotions overwhelm her. Anger, relief, fear, the realization that she was no longer the scared girl from before. This time, I'm not going to run, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. But just as she braced for whatever came next, her phone buzzed again in her pocket, pulling her attention back. It's from someone else, Daniel whispered, taking a step closer as he peeked at the screen. Mary's heart dropped as she read the words that followed. You shouldn't have replied. It's too late now. The atmosphere shifted, and suddenly, she was no longer just facing a ghost from her past. What had she awakened with her reply? And who was really pulling the strings? With adrenaline surging through her, Mary turned to Daniel and Miguel. We need to leave. Now. But the way her past loomed behind her felt like chains restraining her from escaping, the horror creeping closer. What was she going to do next? Would she be able to face the truth, or was it more than she could handle? The tightening grip of dread dug deeper into Mary's chest. She glanced back at the figure, who now wore an inscrutable expression, as if recognizing the shift in the room. The shadows between them seemed to grow thicker, almost alive, swirling with the tension of all unfinished business. Please, let us just talk just for a minute, the figure urged, their voice softer but tinged with desperation. Mary swallowed hard, weighing the choice that hung in the air like a weighted blanket pressing down on her. Daniel put a hand on her shoulder, grounding her once more. No. We're not staying. The message. He hesitated, as if the words themselves threatened to ignite something volatile. You don't know what this could lead to. We need to be smart about this. But before she could respond, the figure took a small step forward, their hands raised in a gesture of peace. You don't understand. I'm not the enemy here. I'm just what? Mary snapped, her voice echoing off the walls. What are you? A ghost? A memory? You've haunted me long enough. The stranger flinched slightly at her harsh words, and in that moment, Mary felt a flicker of something else. Pity? Anger? She couldn't tell. But the memories that rushed back with full force didn't care about her feelings. It was like stepping into a cold lake. No matter how much she prepared, the shock took her breath away. Look, Mary, the figure pressed, their tone urgent. I need to explain. There are things you don't know, things you need to know. Things I need? You mean the truths you kept hidden? Mary felt her heart racing again, but this time it was fueled by something sharper, defiance. You don't get to decide what I need. Miguel stepped closer to her side, fists clenched. His gaze darted back to the stranger. If you're really here to help, you need to understand that she can't afford to be exposed again. Not after everything. Mary nodded slightly, grateful for her friends who stood firm, resolute protectors in the wake of her anguish. Each support felt like a lifeline, reminding her they were in this together no matter how petty or large the storm might be. Then, as if sensing the weight of the moment, the figure stepped back into the darkness, the flickering light casting their face into shadow. I never wanted any of this, but now they're involved. They won. Stop. You have to listen to me, or it will turn worse. The words hung in the air like a warning shot, reverberating through Mary's core. What do you mean by they? I can't say here. Just trust me, the stranger implored, their voice slipping back into urgency. If you leave now, you'll regret it. You'll be running again, and this time, it won't just be memories chasing you. Mary's breath caught again, churning with emotions that threatened to spill over. She could feel the air shift abruptly, thickening with an undeniable sense of peril. A new tension nestled into the corners of her mind, demanding her attention with a force that felt foreign yet familiar. She began, her voice faltering, caught between fear and a desperate need for answers. Mary, we don't have time to waste, Daniel implored, his eyes drilling into her, trying to tether her to the present. We need to go right now. But even as she registered his plea, her heart was torn. As much as she willed herself to flee, the lure of what lurked in the shadows called to her. Perhaps this was the moment to stop running, the moment to reclaim her narrative instead of letting it play out by others' design. Then she felt her phone vibrate again in her pocket. The persistent buzz felt like an anchor, pulling her back into reality. But this time, she didn't check. Wait, she finally said, her voice more certain now. I need to hear you out. I want to know what I'm up against. The figure nodded slowly, a flicker of hope crossing their face. You're stronger than you think. But we need to hurry before they find out. Mary glanced at Daniel and Miguel, their expressions a mix of approval and unease. Would this choice lead them deeper into the fire? She was stepping away from safety, unsure whether this was an act of bravery or folly. As she prepared to face the truth, a chilling thought crossed her mind. What dark truths would unravel as she sought to discover who was truly pulling the strings, and how far down the rabbit hole would she go? What do you mean, pulling the strings? Mary questioned, trying to keep the trepidation from her voice. The figure gestured for her to step closer, revealing a face half hidden in shadows. A jolt of recognition swept through her. It was someone from her past, a friend once lost, now found in the middle of her own chaos. We can't talk here, they whispered urgently. Not with them watching. Mary's heart pounded. Who is them? What does this have to do with Miguel and Daniel? The figure glanced around the dimly lit space, before leaning in closer. There are people who know what you did, Mary. They want to use it against you. Daniel's hand tightened around her wrist, grounding her. You don't have to listen to this. We should go, now. No. Mary snapped, surprising even herself. I can't run anymore. I need to know. The figure took a deep breath. Your past doesn't just belong to you anymore. It's been shared, twisted into a story that could ruin everything you've built. Mary felt the weight of their words settle over her like lead. Every sleepless night worried about her past crashing into her present roared back to life. What do you mean? What exactly do they know? It's about Miguel, the figure responded, their voice low. They want to manipulate you, use your relationship against him. Miguel stiffened at the mention of his name, his concerns echoing in the silence. Why would anyone want to use her against me? Because, the figure continued, it's all tied to those you swore you'd leave behind. Those you thought would never come back. Mary's stomach twisted. Those ties wrapped around her like chains, familiar yet suffocating. Are you saying they're back? That they want revenge? Yes, the figure replied, eyes glinting in the half-light. And they will stop at nothing to get what they want. I'm here to warn you because they won't play fair. Why should I believe you? Mary challenged, desperation creeping into her voice. You were part of that life too. I'm trying to redeem myself, they replied, raw honesty evident in their tone. I'm not with them anymore. I'm with you. You're a survivor, but you need to face this before it face-loads everything. Behind her, Daniel looked worried yet steadfast. Mary, if they're threats, we need to find real protection for you. I can handle this, she asserted, fueled by a wave of burgeoning strength. No more running. The figure nodded slowly, a hint of respect in their eyes. Then let us move. You need to know the whole story, everything, before you decide what to do with your life. But you have to trust me. Mary took a deep, steadying breath. I don't have much of a choice, do I? Let us go. They turned into the maze-like corridors of the old place, each step sketching out the outline of her tangled past, a past she needed to confront if she wanted to reclaim her present and future. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden shadows across the pavement. It was both beautiful and ominous, as if the universe was providing a backdrop to the drama unraveling in real time. Daniel and Miguel flanked Mary, their support a much-needed shield against the dark clouds swirling above. As they moved, the tension in the air thickened, clinging to them like fog. What happens if we find them? Daniel's voice broke through the heavy silence. Then we expose them, Mary replied, resolute. I need to take the power back. I won't live in fear anymore. The figure nodded, leading them through back alleys until they reached a small, green door at the end of an unmarked street. It looked forgotten, like a portal to a past she thought she had closed. Are you ready? They asked. Mary's heart raced as she pushed the door open. Ready as I'll ever be. Inside, the air grew thick, saturated with apprehension. The dimly lit space revealed old photographs, piles of documents, and a triumphant atmosphere that reeked of the past. Suddenly, all eyes turned to her, the ghosts she had tried to leave behind, waiting with familiar malice. Mary, one of them said with a cruel smile, look who decided to join us. Her heart hammered wildly, she had walked directly into the fire. But as she stood there, surrounded by figures from the shadows of her life, a surge of empowerment flooded through her. I'm not here to play your games, she declared, her voice unwavering. This ends now. Daniel and Miguel shifted closer, unyielding in their support. Perhaps you think you've grown stronger? The leader jeered, stepping forward, eyeing her like a predator. You've become a mother, a fighter, but do you really think you can protect those you love? We know your secrets. Mary could practically feel the blood draining from her face. But then she squared her shoulders, bringing her friends into the light with her. Those secrets made me who I am today. I will fight for everyone I love. And I'm not afraid of you anymore. Whatever darkness wanted to consume her would not win. Whatever hold her past had over her was about to be dismantled. A flicker of concern passed through her foes' faces. Maybe it's time to let the world see what you're hiding. The leader sneered, stepping back, clearly unnerved by Mary's newfound power. Maybe it's time to find out, Daniel interjected, taking a step forward, resolve lighting up his expression. Intense stares met, heartbeats echoing in that room like a thunderous drum. Mary locked eyes with Daniel and Miguel, silently thanking them for standing with her. I'm ready to face whatever comes next, she declared to the group, as a wave of steely resolve washed over her. Then let us settle this once and for all, the leader spat. With the weight of her past and the certainty of her future rallying behind her, Mary took a confident step into the fire. Ready. No more shadows would define her life. The transformation wouldn't be just about rekindling love with Daniel or reconnecting with her past relationships. It would be about breaking free from what bound her. This battle might change everything, she affirmed. Bring it on, the group admitted, revealing the struggles she would no longer have to endure alone. In that moment, surrounded by both allies and adversaries, Mary found the strongest version of herself she had ever known, fueled by love, loyalty, and a relentless drive for freedom. And there, in the light of her rebirth, she felt more alive than ever. As the air crackled with tension and potential, Mary realized she was no longer just fighting for herself. She was defining what her story would be: a story of resilience, love, and a fierce refusal to be held back. This was her moment, and it was only just beginning. All of you who joined Mary on this journey, now it's your moment too. You need to subscribe right now to follow Mary's transformation and witness the next incredible chapters of her life. Leave a like now to show your support and let the world see the power of community and resilience. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about Mary's journey. Let us uplift and inspire together. And share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see that life's challenges can lead to the most beautiful transformations. This is the moment to show your support. Let us go.